So apparently the 144,000 aren't actually male virgins. Let's go digging. Alright, so before we continue, parents, we're going to be covering some adult subject material. Please use your discretion in showing your children. With that being said, we're in chapter 14, verse 4, and it says that we see the 144,000 and describes them as those who have not defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. It is these who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These have been redeemed from mankind as firstfruits for God and the Lamb. So, now, before we continue, isn't that weird? Let's just look at this verse. Now, what's interesting is that we can't actually see any evidence that these should be referring to a specific group of men. We do see evidence that they are redeemed from mankind, but the Greek word there suggests humanity, not just male. The only way that we get this notion that the 144,000 are specifically biologically male is from the description of them not defiling themselves with women. But before assuming we know what that means, let's see how that's used elsewhere in Revelation. Let's keep digging. Alright, so in chapter 17, we're introduced to a city called Babylon, described as a great prostitute, with whom, in verse 2, the kings of the earth commit sexual immorality, not with a literal woman, but with a city described as a woman. Alright, so do you see what's going on here? What's being presented is a picture of spiritual adultery, not sexual impurity. So this city symbolizes everyone who has forsaken God and instead aligned themselves with the beast. That's not all. Let's keep digging. We can contrast this with another city using the same exact opposite terminology, described as a New Jerusalem, which is the bride of Christ instead. So whereas Babylon represents a spiritually adulterous city made up of everyone who rebels against God, there's another city composed of the spiritually faithful to God and the Lamb. So when we head back over to chapter 14, the bridal imagery of the city actually fits perfectly with the 144,000 being described as virgins. So let's pull up that verse one more time. What's interesting is that the Greek word there used for virgin is always, without exception in the Old and New Testament, for women who are eligible for marriage. So the virginity of the 144,000 is a reference to their spiritual fidelity, not their sexual abstinence. They make up the bridal city that has remained faithful to the Lamb and have not joined the adulterous city that worships the beast. So again, what's in view here is spiritual allegiance and covenant faithfulness. So the 144,000 are not restricted by number or gender. They are a symbolic picture of the full people of God, an innumerable multitude from every nation who are able to enter into a new eternal covenant with God through the finished work of Jesus on the cross. And if you want to learn more about stuff like this, go ahead and follow my Instagram, click the links in my bio, where I'll be creating more content and resources. See you next time where we'll go digging some more.